Welcome back to KMM Tech. Today we're going to do a follow-up video to one of my previous videos, the video on Todoist. I want to go through a little bit about my setup for Todoist and how I use it day to day. Like I said in that other video, I use it every single day, and it really does help organize me and keep track of things during the week. So let's take a look at what we got going on. So let's start with the inbox, I guess. That's probably the best place to start. So you'll see, I know in the video I mentioned I was going to clean this up. I have not had a chance yet to clean this up, but it's on the list of things to do. I think part of the problem is I don't have a task to clean it up, so let's fix that right now. And we'll do it with a due date of today. That way it hopefully will get done today, and if not, I will address it later. So as you notice, right away I put the due date in there. And one of the nice things about Todoist is the way that you can do due dates. And I don't know that I didn't really cover it in the last video because it was kind of a basic video, but we're diving a little bit deeper in to Todoist. So one of the things you can do, I'm just going to do a test here with due dates. Todoist uses natural language, so you can say things like every Wednesday at 2 p.m. starting 3/5. Okay, so it will. I don't even know if 3/5 is a date, Wednesday, but so you'll see that it happens every Wednesday. It starts this Wednesday, and then as I mark it off, it will do that. So natural language is one of the strengths of Todoist. And I don't think a lot of people realize how powerful natural language is when it comes to using this. This feature and changing due dates and stuff like that. It's so robust and so well done. So let's just get rid of this. Oops, I didn't change the due date. There we go. Oop, due date didn't change again. Why did the due date not change? Just go no date. Save. There we go. So yeah, so you notice everything in here does have a due date, and that is so important. If you're not the kind of person that's going to put due dates in, or if you're worried that you're going to forget, my recommendation is this: always create a new task inside of the inbox, and then set yourself a reminder or a task, a recurring task, to go through your inbox and just check for tasks that don't have a due date. And that way they won't get lost in the shuffle of things. While we're on the subject of reviews, that's one of the most important things, I think, especially in the beginning as you're building out your Todoist or whatever project manager you're using, is building a spot to review what you have, how it works, and does it still work. And just because it works well for you for 6 months doesn't mean that it's going to work that well for you forever. So I actually build in, whenever I create a project that has recurring tasks, I go through and I create reviews inside of those projects. So if you do a search here for review, you'll see that I have a review for deliveries for my watch list, which is movies and things that I want to watch eventually, or books that I want to read, all those sorts of things. So if you click on it and go right into the project, here's a list of all of my cleaning tasks. And every 14 days, I go in and I say, okay, are all of these still relevant? Do I need to change how frequently they happen? And I'll do some of that based on the day that it happens, that the task happens. And sometimes I go in and do it that every 14 days. That way it's fresh in my mind. But yeah, I go through these all the time, and I can't stress enough how important it is to have a review for yourself, for things, especially in the beginning as you're building out Todoist. Your Todoist is not going to be, or project manager, whatever you're using, it's not going to be perfect from the beginning. You're going to need time to tweak things and change things. And I've worked with people where, I've helped them set up their Todoist, and they use it for a month and they go, I hate it. And I say, well, what's wrong? And then they tell me that, well, this doesn't really work as well as I thought it would do. And I said, well, why don't we just change it? And they said, well, I didn't realize I could. And you have to realize this is customizable to you. Don't feel bad about changing it. If something happens, If you have something in there for every 7 days and you realize that that's not enough, change it. Make it happen, at a different time. That's okay. This is a platform that is customizable, and it's ever changing. I've used Todoist for 5 or 6 years now, and things are still evolving and still changing. Life happens, things change. I remember talking with a colleague of mine a couple of years ago. He's a big Asana guy and loves Asana, and he built this whole thing, and he loved it, and it worked so well for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden things started to bog down, and he just became so overwhelmed, and he just had to take some time just to go in and rebuild everything. And I said, you know what? Now that you've done this, build yourself in some review time. That way you don't have to get so overwhelmed in a year and a half. You can kind of nip this before it gets so bad, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, maybe in 6 months. That way you stay on top of it. And that's really important. And one of the things that you can do if you are using labels, you can just label stuff, and just do it that way if you want. And you can actually go through, like I have all my reviews, so I can see what all my reviews are, when they're due, and the projects that they're in. That's a great way to use labels. Again, it's not something that I do a lot, but every time I do create a review, I make sure that it is labeled, so that way I can go through and check it out. Filters are another thing that I don't use a tremendous amount, but I do use here and there, and they're really, really powerful. And I'm going to show you the kind of the weird, strange Kroger one that I have and why I have it set up the way I do. So inside of my projects, and I think it's under personal, and then there's the groceries one. So what I have here is inside here, there's my weekly menu, which is what I use for, the days of the week, and I try and plan out dinners that way. And then I have basically 4 categories of projects for grocery shopping. And as you know, it's very difficult if you have things in multiple projects, and I'm always a fan of trying to keep everything in one spot. So inside of my recurring list, so these are things that I buy every week, every other week, that sort of thing. Some you'll see that don't have due dates. That's because I used to buy them every week, and then I changed it, and I either don't buy them anymore, or I do it a different way. But they're still here, so if I ever want to go back, I can do that. So I keep all of the recurring things in this recurring project. Inside of my Kroger project are things that I would add on the fly. I actually have 2 Kroger projects, because I have Alexa tied into this as well. And I like to use this little icon to mark off the grocery stuff. However, Alexa won't see that, so I have the Alexa thing. I just haven't cleaned this up. This one I really don't use. It's really this one and this one that I use. But again, it's there, and it's one of those things that I have to go through and clean up, and I just haven't cleaned up yet. So what my Kroger filter does is it takes this list here and this list and basically combines them. Now, I had to do that for a certain reason, and that's because if I just looked if I kept everything in the one list, you'll see that there are due dates here. Okay, like this one, for example, is due on March 17th. This one is here due on April 27th. If I had this inside of the and I used the recurring project to look at this stuff, I'd be looking at all this stuff, even the stuff that was not due. So the other issue is that I don't always go shopping on Sunday. So you'll see that this stuff is all due on Sunday. But if I go to the store on Saturday, it's not going to be in my today view. So I had to come up with a way to figure out how to get this recurring stuff into a one view and get the other stuff, the Alexa shopping list, in there as well. And the way I did that was I did it with a filter. So you'll see that what it does is it takes the recurring stuff and only the stuff that's due for this week, and then it adds in the stuff that's in the Alexa shopping list. So the format for the favorites. I have to get into the filters view. Sorry. It's a little bit weird. So basically what this says is that this needs to be in the project Kroger or the project Alexa shopping list. Oops. Nope, I just woke Alexa up. And then it also has to, the other is, or it needs to be in the recurring shopping list and be due within the next 6 days. And that's how I got that into here. I will link the filter schema inside of the description down below. It takes a little bit of getting used to when to use the or and when to use the and how to build that out. So that is a filter that I use all the time. It's just, it's every week that I use it, and adding stuff happens very frequently. So that's how I use filters. At one point, I used to use a no due date filter, and because of the mass of all of my projects and the way I have data stored in here, it became very cumbersome to use, and the filter was just ridiculous the way I had to build it to exclude certain things. So I actually don't even use the no due date filter anymore. I am so regimented about putting stuff in either my inbox or making sure I put it in with a date and going through that rather frequently to make sure that there are dates, that I don't have to worry about going through the no due date filter anymore. So that's really as much as I do. And as far as Todoist, like, that's really it. I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time in the next 7 days view. Every once in a while I pop into it. The way my life is and the way I function, I'm okay with living with, just the today view and saying, okay, this is what's due today, and I can go do it that way. So yeah. And that begs the question, like what's next, I think, and what I'd like to see new in Todoist for the future. And I think one of the things that I would love to see change, and I don't know how to change it, but it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's one of the reasons that I don't really use a calendar, because everything is in Todoist. But the biggest hiccup, and this is something that you should be aware of, when you have recurring tasks, they don't actually happen they don't recur until you complete them. So for example, I'll just jump down to the tomorrow view here. You'll see that I have Feed Lewis and Sky, my dogs. So this task is an everyday task, okay? However, if I go down to the Friday view, you'll see that it's not there because I haven't completed it yet. Once I complete it, it will jump down to the next day. I wish there were a way that it was smart enough to know, okay, it is a recurring event, and it will be in the Friday, and it'll be there every day. I kind of understand why it's not there, but it is what it is. So that's what I'd love to see change. As far as integrating a calendar, I mean, you can integrate this Google Calendar. It's kind of messy and it works well, but trying to organize it, it's just so much easier in a list view, I think. So I'm not even big on that. The only other thing I'd love to see is Asana has. Let me bring up my Asana real quick. So Asana has this Kanban board thing. So here's how I manage my videos, and here's the list of videos that I'm going to be working on, and how I'm writing notes, and then when I film it, and so you can take this sort of stuff and you can drag it, over and back and forth as you're doing stuff. It would be kind of cool to integrate that into Todoist. I know that they were talking about it, and they kind of built a platform for it at one point, and it was tested on Windows machines, on Windows systems. It never kind of materialized, but that's really the only thing that I would like to see added, and just because I don't like to jump back and forth between Asana and Todoist all the time, it would be nice to have that in Todoist. And rumor has it they're kind of working on it, and it might be out in 2019. But who knows? Anyway, guys, that's it for today. I've got some things going on that I need to take care of, so we're going to call it quits. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below. If you did like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like what we're doing here, please make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that bell notification so you're notified when our new videos do go live. Anyway, guys, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.